Lake Cruise tickets! Snack shop! Boat cruise! Oh, may hiking! Ang alin? Oh, asan ang boat natin dyan? Oh, nice! Doon, mag-hike doon sa gilid.
May boat tayo.
Yan nga eh.
Where we hike?
There, we go hike. Sa dalampasigan lang.
There we go. First, you're gonna see how much.
Doon na, sa ticket office. Go! Asan na yung boat mo? Wow! Let's go! Sarap maligo. Sarap maligo. First boarding. Double line. Start to let's go. Priority.
Nakabili na ng ticket?
Yeah. 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 Tickets inside.
Yung by group, ano na kayo? 11, 12,
Ay, wala akong mask. $39. Oy, $39. Hi! On board, on board! Ano ba ako muna? I'm the videographer, so I must be first. There you go. Let's go!
Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy?
Look out! There! The view!
Oh.
Oh.
There you go. All right, there you go. All right, good. Okay, do you know where they are? Hope so. Yeah, I hope so. We didn't just wake up here. Does anyone know where we're going?
Nope.
Okay. So we're on Lake Minnewanka, for those of you who don't know. We are going to be going halfway down the lake to where we're going our turnaround point. That's 11 kilometers down the lake. The lake itself is 22 kilometers. So we're going to our turnaround point. The person taking us there is our Captain Graves right here. But give her a round of applause because she's going to tell you where safely back. There you go. And my name is Sheldon. I'll be your guide today. So we do have to go over the safety procedures before we get going. So we're going to check under your seat to make sure you have the life jacket.
Oh, you checked it already.
Good. Anyone know? Oh, yes. Good, good.
Why?
Anyone not see a life jacket under our captain's seat? Okay, so you will have to need to know your exits. So the back door is one of them. That's the one that came in, hopefully. The other exits, we have the other windows on the sides here. We can open those windows, those are an alternative exit. And we can also climb up these stairs and pop out the window up here onto our bow or go through here. And this is also where we have our children's life jackets. So if some of you feel like your life jacket is too big for you, you can come up here. Or if you're just a small adult, maybe, you have your life jacket there as well. And you also may notice our white capsule on the stern of our boat. That's our life raft. So in the event of an emergency, we can push that off, deploy it, or pull that open, we'll hop in, we can keep paddling down and finish our tour. So no worries there. Any questions about safety?
Good.
That's good. Feel like we're all feeling safe? Okay, perfect. Does anyone have any questions about the lake or about the park that you're dying to know before we get going, before I start rambling? Yep. Are in the lake or around the lake? Okay, so that's what type of animals we have in the lake and around the lake. So we do have quite a few species of fish here. Most of them are introduced. Our biggest one is the lake trout, which I'll see if I can find. There we go. So we have the lake trout. This is the biggest fish in our lake here. They were introduced and brought over from Ontario and dumped into the lake for people who came out here wanting something to fish for sport. We had not much competition in the lake, so they put in this lake trout so you would have something a bit more competitive, a bit bigger to catch. These lake trout grow to about 55 pounds. We read that close. Yeah, so these lake trout can grow up to 55 pounds. About 20 pounds, they actually start eating other fish and cannibalizing their own lake trout, their own species. So for a while, this lake was actually known as Cannibal Lake. These lake trout, not just the people, don't worry. Yeah, so the lake trout is our biggest fish in this lake. And we also have the bald eagle. So keep an eye out in our tree tops around the lake here. If you see a white dot in the tree tops, that might be the bald eagle. We have a nesting pair on our lake here. We saw one of them earlier this morning. He might still be out there. Oh, you okay. Yeah, so we've seen them a few times today. So keep an eye out, like I mentioned, in the tree tops. It'll be like a white head. And it's just like a little white dot when you first spot it. But these bald eagles, they eat the fish as well. They're not suited for diving into the water. Their wings, if you get the feathers wet, they can't take off. So they actually perch to the tree tops. They wait around until they see a fish, and then they'll swoop down and grab it and try to fly away with it. If it's too big, we might have to drop it, but not for lack of trying. They will try to fly away even with a big fish. Now these bald eagles are actually quite large. They can have up to a 7-foot wingspan and a 3 feet in height. But they don't just eat fish, they're also predators and other animals. One of the unique hunting features that they have, if anyone has seen the mountain goats, they're hard to spot, they're up on the mountain side. But sometimes the bald eagles will actually swoop down, knock them off the cliffs as a meal for them as well. So these mountain goats are like a bit on the edge of these two, literally. Now other animals, anyone see any animals on the way up here? Okay, sheep, they like to fight each other on the roads. They have those big curly horns. So the mountain goats have the curly pointy horns. Mountain goats are white, they have the pointy horns. They live up in the mountains. The big horn sheep have the big mountain horns. They like to fight each other. Or the male sheep anyway, they fight each other for the females. You can see on the back there. One of the competitions that they have. Sometimes they create traffic jams and they fight each other on the road. No one wants to get in their way because they're going to hit your car. That's a big price that you pay to get that done off the road. So these guys like to cross traffic jams. Besides the big black sheep and the elk, of course, I mentioned, we have a family of elk that live on the road coming up here. Sometimes we get to spot them. We're usually on the side of the road just eating a fast food or a stock or whatever. We keep an eye out for them on their way back. If you don't see them on the road, keep an eye out even when you're in the Banff townsite. Sometimes they out straight into town. Last night I saw them just sleeping by the river right across from the Banff Springs Hotel. So keep an eye out, even if they're in town, they might be there as well. Now it's wait a few minutes, they're quite used to us. And of course, the main thing that people like to go out here and see is the bears. Unfortunately, they are a bit hard to spot. They're usually out in the woods. They get kind of I don't know all they're living around. near the shoreline, especially closer towards our harbor there, we're actually not allowed to go to shore. We have to a $25,000 top. That's because, you know, look at that.
Wow.
That's because they have these on here. So this one is plastic, but did anyone tell what this is?
Nope.
Maybe this way,
Nope.
down here. Yeah, this is the spearhead. It's called a Clovis spearhead. So you can tell by the indentations on it that it's a Clovis spearhead. The Clovis people actually lived as far down as New Mexico, and these have been carbon dated to 13,000 years ago. That's how long we know they've been living in this area. Possibly longer, but for at least this long. This one, not quite that old. Just got it at the dollar store. And like I said, we pull these from the park. That's a $25,000 fine. They want to keep it preserved at the shoreline, so you can go there, you can study it. If you're part of a research group, you can't take it home with you. It has to stay there on the park shoreline there.
25K fine.
Bears have a huge hide. They're very thick animals. They got a lot of belly fat. So this is just going to be very effective on its own against them. You see it's kind of thin, not very long. So what the indigenous people here would actually do, especially the Stony people, these trees around here, they have truffle berries growing on them. So I'll show you the truffle berries. These here, these truffle berries, they can be grinded up and they can be made into a jam. So they can actually be smeared on the spearhead. So when you throw it at the bear, it actually anti-coagulates. It doesn't allow it to blood to clot, so the animal will bleed out. That's one of the things that they would use to hunt. Now, of course, if we want to start a fire as well, so when you kill an animal, you don't want to eat it raw. Very unhealthy, so you would create a fire to cook the meat. But sometimes it can be real difficult to start a fire, have a piece of flint and a piece of iron, and they would rub it together until they get a spark going, and they would start a fire there. But it could take them a long time, so another method they would use to cook it, they would have this here. Does anyone know what's under here? Surprised anyone want to guess? No, it's just a plain old rock. Pretty boring, right? Now this is what they would use to cook and make meat. They would heat it up over the fire. Then when they wanted to cook later on, if they were out baking for several hours, didn't feel like starting a fire, they'd actually take this rock and they would use it to boil water and make tea. How do they do that with a rock? Well, smoke coming off of that? Yeah, so these rocks retain heat very well. Another demonstration here. And they could use this to boil water and make tea.
Okay.
So how would they make tea? Well, these large grow pine trees, you can see on either, especially on our right-hand side. These ones right now, they can be grinded up, they can be in the water, and they make tea in terms of vitamin C. Does anyone know why you need vitamin C? What illness do you get without vitamin C? Scary, yeah, exactly. So, it's going to be very common for early explorers as well as indigenous people. While their gums are black and people fall out, their skin will turn yellow, they have hard scars, they can actually reopen with the scar tissue on the so a very dangerous disease. Vitamin C, easy way and unprevented. And these pine needles from the raspberry pines can be made into a tea. Drink that, that'll ward off the scurvy for you. So very crucial for the people that lived out here during that time.
Vitamin C tea.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Well, if we take a look at the two sides of the lake, what side do you think looks more healthy? Any guess? This side here? There's a lot of trees on that side, definitely more trees. But it's actually this side here that's more healthy.
Why?
So if you see on this side here, you see these areas of open terrain. Now that's where they had what the parks called a controlled burn. So that's when they set the fire, the forest on fire, to try and get rid of some of the older trees so they can make room for new growth. But as they found out pretty quickly, there's not much of a controlled burn that you can do. They can do, so they renamed it a prescribed burn. So anyone coming up from DC, obviously, a lot of fires there now, very difficult to control them. So they renamed it a prescribed burn. But what that does is it creates more room for things to grow. So on this side, we only have one type of tree, the Lashmore pine. On this side, we have Lashmore pine, but we also have another variety. We have the aspen trees as well. So you can see over here, this big bundle of trees that looks different.
Yeah.
But the trunk-like aspen trees, how many do you think there are over there? Any guesses how many trembling aspen trees are in that whole bunch over there?
Southside?
Do you want to guess?
Southside?
Actually, just one. Oh, sorry. Answer before he threw up your hand. Yeah, there's just one trembling aspen tree over there.
What?
It might look like 100 or 200. There's only one because technically they're all the same organism. Underground, they're attached by the same root system.
Oh!
So technically, if you're that's just one big aspen, trembling aspen tree over there.
I didn't know that.
So the trembling aspen tree actually has something similar to aspirin. You can lick it off. So the indigenous people that were here, they would notice that the peacock sheep, before getting birth, would actually lick the trees. So they figured there must be something that eases the pain in those trees. It turns out that there is. So we sat there and they actually used to lick aspirin. We wrote off headaches, whatever else you might have, acts as a pain relief. So a lot of the trees obviously very many uses around poor people that live in this area. Now, if you look towards our left-hand side, you can see something in the mountains. Does anyone see a face in the mountainside there? Give it a good look. You should be able to see two closed eyes, a nose, and a closed mouth. Anyone see it? Well, you gotta use your imagination or whatever. That's
There's a mouth, there's a face over there in the mountain. Use your imagination. Did you see it?
one eye here, the nose, and the mouth.
Yes, I can see it.
We call that the weaving sphere because they say that it keeps the light lost on the lake. So when it rains, you can actually see the water dripping down the ice, so it looks like the base of the mountain is crying.
Yeah, the rain. Make the figure. Oh, balik ka!
Okay, so we're approaching a turnaround point. Now to get around the corner here, you'll be able to see down most of the lake, but it's not the end of the lake. It actually curves to the left to what they call Devil's Pass. Why do they call it Devil's Gap, sorry? So why do they call it the Devil's Gap? It actually opens up into the prairies. It's one of the few places in the Rocky Mountains that opens straight up into the prairies without just a gradual descent. The reason they call it the Devil's Gap is because this lake was once known as Devil's Lake. Why is that? Does anyone know why what Lake Minnewanka means?
No.
Does anyone know what Minnesota means? So Minna actually means water. So Minnesota has a lot of lakes. Soda means many, so they called it water many, many waters. And here, Wanka actually means spirits. So it's many spirits, or water spirits. And the reason it's called water spirits is not because it was haunted or anything like that, but because to the indigenous people, forces of nature are spirits in themselves. So sometimes when we get winds coming down the Devil's Gap and down the lake, it can get very choppy in here. So it can get up to 2 meters or 7-foot waves in here. So that was one form of spirit for the indigenous people. Another would be the forest fires, another would be the rain. So to them, everything in nature is a spirit. So that's why they called it Lake Minnewanka, the water spirits or spirited waters. But to the settlers who came out here, when they heard that it was a lake of spirits, and then the most well-known spirit was the devil, so that's why they called it Devil's Lake, and also because of the rumors of the lake monster that lived here. I'll tell you that story on the way back. The people that original settlers that came here called it the Devil's Lake. It wasn't so good for tourism, so they eventually changed it to the indigenous name, which was Lake Minnewanka. So as we approach our destination here, we do slow down the engines and close the engines. We let them cool down, and then we'll turn them off, and we'll be able to hear just the sounds of nature once the engines are off. So we'll take a moment, we'll just listen quietly. We usually go for 10 seconds just to hear the sounds of nature, because when we get out here, we're in the back, if you're in Banff, it's still a busy townsite, even though it's in the park. And even at the top of the mountain there, Cascade Mountain, that's the big one, that overlooks the site there. Even from the top of that, you can still hear the trains and the hustle and bustle of the townsite. So when we're out here, we'll turn off the engines and all that noise that you can hear from the townsite, we won't be able to hear it out here. So I'll take 10 seconds of silence just to appreciate being out in the backcountry here. Not many people come to Banff and get this far out. give a moment to cool down the engines. Does anyone have any questions before we stop? Up our left side, you can also see one of our campsites. So right now is by law you need to have at least 4 people if you're going camping. You also need to have bear spray because right now it's the bear feeding season. Yeah, those buffalo berries are growing and they're blooming very much right now. So how much do you think it'll eat in a day, the grizzly bears, the buffalo berries? Any guesses? Yeah, add some zeros to 20 there.
Oh my.
So they actually eat about 200,000 buffalo berries a day. So they're very hungry animals, they need a lot of weight on them. So there's only about 3 grizzly bears that live in this area. But right now, it is their feeding season, so it's dangerous to be out on shore years. That's why you need to have 4 people and bear spray by law. Otherwise, parks will come and airlift you out. You have to pay for the evacuation there. Okay, so we're stopping the engines here. We'll take 10 seconds to have silence so everyone's ready. It might be a little bit unnice, we've got some younger people, but that's okay, it's part of nature. So, on the count of 3, we'll go dead silent. So, 1, 2, 3. Okay. That was so nice. What's around here? Middle of the lake. Your loop earlier today. It's a little bit midday now, so you may not hear it, but it's one of my favorite bird calls is the loop. Something when we're having a true Canadian experience. But we're going to stop here for about 5 minutes. So if you want to go on the back deck now and take some pictures, that's okay.
Woo!
We do have an 8-person maximum, so 8 people can go out there right now, and then if there's more want to come out, or go out there and send a few in and go and see. If you have any questions, feel free to come out to the front.
Dali, hurry, hurry.
Yeah, people do swim. They don't usually stay in here long. It's 4 degrees
Saan? Sige, dyan ka. Picturean kita.
Anybody else want to do one where the water's blue? Here, I'll say it so most people can hear. It's because of this rock called calcite. So calcite is ground down when glaciers carved through our valley. So a long time ago, the mountains were connected, and then the glacier came through and carved it out. So to the bottom of the glacier, there's sometimes rocks that are frozen. And so this calcite will rub against those frozen rocks, and you'll see flint is a hard. I'll do this side. Sorry. You can see there's like powder on my fingers because it rubbed off on the rock. So these powder right here still exists in the water right now, even though there's no glaciers feeding our lake. The closest glacier is at Lake Louise. So this powder, when the sunlight hits it, it reflects off the shortest wavelengths, and our shortest wavelengths are blue and green. So we see blue and green. Have you guys been to Lake Louise yet?
Yeah.
You're going? So you know how it has like a milkier color, and it's a brighter blue? Yeah, and green. Yeah, lighter green, yeah. And that's because there's actively like calcite being added to the water. So there's a higher concentration of calcite, and also a higher concentration of just the dust in general, the rock flour. So it's milkier and then more calcite, you see a brighter color. So now even if you look around your lake, like you see how this side of the lake looks like a different blue than right in front of us here? So that's just because the sunlight's hitting it, right? So the color we see. Yeah. Shiny. in about 10 minutes here, you can go into hypothermic shock.
Oh,
It's very, very cold.
so nobody goes swimming in here? Oh.
No, even in summer, I've jumped in off the docks where it's shallow, and then you immediately climb out. Because, like, did you hear about the heat wave that BC and Alberta had?
Yeah, yeah.
I jumped in that week a couple of times after work, and it feels really nice to be in there for 10 seconds only.
Oh.
And you quickly climb out because it's very cold. Yeah, for sure. Where were you guys visiting from?
Yeah, we're from Calgary.
Calgary.
What color? What color is this? What color? Hey, there you go. What color is this? What color? What color is this? Huh? What color? What color? This one is blue. How about this one?
So you okay, can everyone hear me again?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are making our way back. We are allowed to go on the back deck, but right now there's 8-person maximum. So make sure there's not 8 people up. There's already 8 people. You want to get back there? 2 minutes, I can go back there. We'll see now on our way back. So we'll tell you a story. The indigenous people of this lake. So they haven't heard of the big monster of Lake Minnewanka? Okay, well, the indigenous people had a story here that one time they were camped out on the mountainside over here. They were partway up, and in the middle of the night they heard a drum beating. The indigenous people think it's being summoned. So I'm just going to shut the door here. Yeah, so they go on the back deck, make sure the back door is shut. Yeah, so when they peeked out of their tent to see what was causing this drum beating, they started flashing up the side of the mountain. Please make sure you go to the door on the way in. You're coming into the back deck. Thank you. So they started to retreat further up the mountain, and when they looked down, they saw a giant whirlpool with this monster in the center. They described it as half man, half fish. So from that point on, they avoided coming to this lake, unless they had to go fishing or for a resource or something like that. So the man who came here, they first started the boat tours, lake monster, they were afraid to come up here and take the boat tour. So he told them, not up here, we're going to go out and capture the monster. If I'm not having a weak spine, that means the monster got me, so don't come out here, it's not safe. So how many think they made it back? Yeah, so we did make it back in a week's time, just in time for the next edition of the newspaper, and he printed a story saying, come on, I have captured the lake monster of Lake Minnewanka. And only by what I can encourage you, you can come see it. If you're already getting people, I find you more money to go. We'll do the same with the fire, and the public works a lot back then. But he would show them a quick glimpse of the monster if he entered a tarp. He would lift it up quickly and hide it, kind of like this. And then I'll just take a long enough glance, but he would say, if you want a longer glance, you have to come on my boat tour and pay 25 cents. Then you'll be able to see the monster. I'm going to swim up on the board here. I'll tell you the whole story of how I caught it. I'll even take you to the spot where I caught it, and I'll tell you all of the road adventure that I had. So people would come and pay 25 cents, come on these boat tours and see the monster. And we have it here. You can see the photo there. So that's the lake monster that he would show everyone on his boat cruises that was reportedly caught in the lake here. So half man, half fish, like a mermaid, but not very pretty. Yeah, it's creepy.
Hi.
Yep. So that's the lake monster of Lake Minnewanka. Has anyone seen this monster in person? No? No, not yet? You can. If you go down to the trading post in Banff, they actually still have it on display. See for yourself there. So how many believe the story? Yep. Few people believe it, but that's the idea there, is to believe in the story. The indigenous people told the story of this lake monster, and the reason they told this story was to actually scare the children away from the lake. The lake is very hazardous. If you come out for a swim, you lose your body temperature very quickly. It's only 4 degrees, so you can grow very weak and it's very easy to drown in this lake. So indigenous people will tell the story of this lake monster to keep their children away from the lake. Now, unfortunately, the lake monster isn't here anymore because none of them actually caught it, right? Well, if you look at the lake monster, on the back of this card is actually a receipt. This receipt was found by Northern Western's daughter after he passed away. And what was it? It was a receipt for a taxidermy company in Japan. So they make the old monster company. So the human fish man monster wasn't quite real. It's something that was bought by Northern Western of Japan and used on his tours to kind of give them a little extra. Make people come out and see them. So it was half fish and half monkey, with a little bit of hair on the top there, and that's what he used to advertise his tours for the lake monster. Does anyone feel safe going for a swim? Is a flat lake monster with safe? Maybe the real lake monster is still in the lake. So good luck going for a swim there. I know it's like a mermaid of her being half man, half fish, just not as attractive. So does anyone have any other questions? Any other questions? What animals are around? What animals are normally seen now? So he was asking what animals are normally seen. So the most common types of animals there, you talk about this one, the big horse sheep and the elk are the most common animal around the lake, but especially on the road coming out to the lake. We do have a few grizzly bears and a few black bears that live around the lake. About 3 grizzly bears, 3 black bears. That's because food is very scarce. There's a lot of competition. Bears need to eat a lot to survive, so there's not too many bears. They're very territorial. Any other questions? Anything anyone thinks people are dying to know? Okay. So close my mouth here for a couple minutes. Get closer to a point over here. And I got another story for you. But for now, you can just enjoy the scenic tour and enjoy the scenery around you. Thank you. When I was working at Moline, they had a fire there. So Mooney Lake, further up in Jasper, they had a fire there. It's spread out of control. We had to shut down for 2 weeks. And the whole world pretty much saying, well, yeah, we're overdue for a new fire, so when it happens, it'll be good. Well, it wasn't so good. It went too far and created this whole dead area. You can see it probably still if you drive up to the main. So yeah, these controlled fires are very hard to control, so they come as prescriber now. So that's why there's less trees in this type of place. Yeah, so we're just approaching what we call a steep point. Now this is where the water is a little bit shallower, it's about 30 meters. Now there's a reason for that. Has anyone visited the community of Minnewanka Landing? Has anyone here been to Minnewanka Landing? Heard of it?
Nope.
Pictures of it? Seen pictures of it?
Nope.
Does anyone know anyone who's been to Minnewanka Landing? We're only about, actually should be visible right now. The reason it's not is because it's underneath the boat now.
Oh.
So the water levels did rise, and Lake Minnewanka Landing is like around 50 Atlantis. So I have a couple pictures here. You can see here, this is the lake before and after. So the water levels did rise, and the reason for that is because of a dam that was built. Actually, 2 dams that were built. The first one was built in 1912, and that was for a little mining community called Lower Bankhead. So you might have seen the signs for Lower Bankhead on your way out here. That was used to be an old mining community, but in 1922, Banff became a national park. So they actually had to close the mining community at Lower Bankhead, so it became a ghost town. But that first dam that they built in 1912, the power of Lower Bankhead, it partially flooded Minnewanka Landing. So people were pretty upset by that. And in 1941, there was happening in World War. Now in parks, they aren't allowed to build a dam, but they can't make an exception during the war because of the War Measures Act. So some people from Calgary said they wanted to build a munitions factory. And so the government gave them permission to build a second dam. And that's the one that you can see right in front of our boat here. The big rock wall, that was the second dam that was built in 1941 during the war. Anything to help the war effort overruled the park's rules. Now, is anyone from Calgary here? Yes. Yeah. Have you seen the munitions factory? No, that's because it doesn't exist. It was never finished. This dam took 5 years to build. By the time it was finished, the war was over. So some people think it was a bit of a white lie to get power to the lower communities here. But either way, this dam now powers Banff, powers Canmore, powers Lake Louise. All these areas in the Bow Valley are powered by this dam. So if you're staying in one of those areas tonight, you have electricity, you can thank our dam here, and you can thank the children that build it. That's right, the children that built it, because who built it? The men were at war, the women were in the factories taking over their jobs, so it was children that were taken out of their schools to build this dam. So child labor, has anyone here built a dam before? Anyone here ages 11 to 15? Yes, you two might have been building a dam there during the war. Have you been in the dirt before? Yeah, that's enough on your resume there to build this dam. But they did a good job because it's still standing. There's a bus going across it right now. It's very strong. Obviously, child labor, you would think that must have been rough, especially because they were supervised by POWs, prisoners of war. So that kind of made it a little bit extra unsafe, I guess you could say. Obviously, prisoners of war, there was soldiers fighting for their country, of course. But yeah, but one time, not on our cruise, but on another cruise, we had an older gentleman, and we told this story, and he threw up his hand. He said, "Yes, I was one of the children that built that dam." We were concerned, like, "Oh, was it a tough time?" He's like, "No, it was a fun time because we were out of school. It was like being on a camping trip, and it was a great time, one of the greatest experiences of my life." So, you know, sometimes child labor, not a bad thing. Yeah, so this dam wanted to make Minnewanka completely, but you can still scuba dive down to it, and you can brave the cold, and if you have your fully certified scuba diving, you can get there. But we're all about to dock here, so I am going to jump out and call our captain dock. So we will also remain seated until the captain tells you that it's safe to dock. But I do hope that you enjoyed the tour. It's a good day to go. It was one of the most beautiful days that I've done in 3 weeks. Before that, it was always smoking wind. I've been able to see the mountains. So it's a good day to hunt them out, but you're always welcome to come back. We hope to see you back. There's always something new to see you upstate.
kailangan natin ng wetsuit para makatagal. Parang sa Pilipinas din, ano? Panakot sa mga bata. Ganon yun, ano? Hike, hike, hike. Oh, bye-bye na sa Minnewanka. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Alright, see you there.
Dito naman pala po. Tapos nasan sila mismo? Kasi ang Evelyn yun.
Ay, hindi. Mali! Na mali! Icy water! Hanggang 10 seconds ka nga lang. Devil's Cove. Ayun. Hindi maganda yung kanyang mic. Hindi kaya. Hindi kayang lumubog. Ay, bato-bato. Bato-bato. Talaga? Dali di pa ako nakaporma eh. Di pa ako nakaporma eh.
Hindi ka pa nakataba. Tina.
Nice! Baba na tayo.
Kaya ka takot na ako eh.
Di ba dadaan daw sa piers? Piers? Tingnan yung river. Yung splash down ng Calgary. Ng Calgary. Free.
Kasi nga idol tayo doon. Ay, kanina may gabi.
Maganda doon. Splash down. Oh, may picnicker doon.